this launch is going to be really strong.
Yeah.
Not only for whatever Switch 2 games are there at launch, like Mario Kart World, and I think even Donkey Kong Bonanza comes only just like a couple weeks after.
That's right.
You know what I mean?
yeah.
It's like it's not far after. So they'll have some brand new Switch 2 stuff, which is cool, but you get all of these other games and partnerships and things like that that can be on there, and all of your Switch library, well, the compatible Switch library that you
not all of
own,
it.
you can play a huge library of stuff on this
Yeah.
thing out of the gate. And that's very, very cool.
Yeah.
Hello and welcome back to the State of the Arc podcast. My name is Mike,
My name's Kaysen.
and the Nintendo Switch 2 is coming out.
It's coming up.
Coming out
Can't believe it.
on June 5th.
June 5th. Yes.
Did that surprise you?
Yes. Well, I was thinking June or July, actually.
Really?
So, just because, not my actual thoughts. My actual thoughts were November or something like that. But I had been hearing whispers of, oh, it's imminent. It's coming really soon. And so June 5th is pretty early, but I had kind of prepared myself for something like that.
Yeah. I guess I had kind of been anticipating something closer to holiday. Not like November, but more maybe like September.
Yeah, something like that.
But no, it's coming in June. And they had a really good show.
Yeah, it was a great one.
I took a
Over
lot of
an
notes
hour
on
long.
and was ready to talk about. And then all of a sudden, the only thing anyone ever wants to talk about in regards to this is pricing.
Hey guys, I know that there's been much made on the internet about the pricing of the Nintendo Switch 2 and of the games, and honestly, until we have better information, more accurate information, there's a lot of things happening in the world right now. There's, of course, the reciprocal tariffs and other just general issues of inflation and whatnot that have contributed to the increase in price, generally speaking. And Mike and I would love to address that maybe at some future point. For this video, because we did not have a lot of this information, and of course, a lot of the world events didn't happen until after we recorded it, we are mostly just going to be spending this time here talking about the Nintendo Direct itself and what we think of the content, the games, the presentation, and all of that kind of stuff.
So Mario Kart World was the first game that was shown. I really,
open world
really
racing?
I really
Me
like.
too.
I really like the direction they're going.
And
with
you
this.
actually have to drive to the next course. It's so much fun. That's cool. Because I was thinking, what more can you do with Mario Kart? How can you innovate that? And it's like, oh, wow, they made it way more interactive and they've created an open world. I always used to do that. Remember with Diddy Kong Racing, we would start a race and then we would just like go screw around and then turn it because they didn't have. Well, no, they did have a battle mode, but there were a limited stage selection, I think, for their battle mode.
Yeah,
and I'm like, I want to do battle mode here. So we would just kind of keep count and then just get the balloons and then fight each other during the race. And just as long as no one finishes the race, if the game doesn't end, you can turn it into your own little battle royale kind of thing.
I remember that. This did remind me of Diddy Kong Racing a little bit, which is, at least...
Because you drive around the island.
Yeah, this has been my favorite kart racer for a long time is Diddy Kong Racing.
Yeah, me too. So fun.
And it's mostly for these sort of adventure aspects to it. It's not just the racing. There's a lot more going on there.
Got to be WizPig. And TT.
So I love that aspect of what they're doing here.
Yeah.
They also like musically had a little bit of kind of like a southern
it
country
did
rock
kind of
vibe to it.
Yeah, that's right.
But yeah, a whole world is kind of open to explore. Obviously do races. I loved the what did they call that mode? The mode where it's basically a nonstop race through the whole world.
Let me
see.
Yeah, technically no boundaries.
What did they call that? They called that.
I can't remember.
Anyway, there was a specific knockout tour. That's what it was. The knockout tour.
Yeah.
That one in particular really appealed to me. So you got a little bit of like a Burnout Paradise and like a Diddy Kong Racing sort of like maybe influence on Mario Kart, and I think it looks excellent.
That's pretty cool.
I would love to play it, and like I said, I won't be for a long time, if ever, because
I know
never
people
does.
Who will buy this.
Nintendo never does sales on their games.
No, they don't lower their prices.
So this game will be $90 or $80 for a really long time.
10 years. Yeah.
The tricks being kind of a new thing too. So like like they would jump onto like a cable or something, and they're like riding on it, or like off of walls. I saw Mario kind of bouncing off of walls a little bit.
That's pretty cool.
So it's sort of like a trick sort of element that they've worked into it. It looks great. And I love the concept of it being World. That feels very Super Nintendo almost to me, you know.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, World.
Convention.
Because they didn't call it the Super Switch, but they had to throw a bone to those people.
Yeah, Mario Kart World.
Mario Kart World it is.
Yeah, it looks awesome.
Yeah, it does.
I think it's going to be a super fun game.
Mario Kart Open World, they could have called it.
They had 3 of their sort of leads on the Switch 2 development come out.
Yeah, they didn't have the normal guy. I forget his name, darn it. The guy who's been doing it the past few years.
Yeah.
He wasn't one of the presenters this time.
No. Koichi Kawamoto, who's the producer. Let's see, Takuhiro
Tako?
Dota.
Okay.
Takuhiro Dota, sorry. The director, and Tetsuya Sasaki is the hardware lead. So they came out, they talked about the Switch 2 a little bit. Oh, there's weather changes in the game too. Day and night cycle.
That'll make things interesting.
And it's a day 1 launch title for the Switch 2. So
June 5th.
coming out really soon. After Mario Kart World, they then talked about some of the features of the new Joy-Con. So they talked about that C button.
Yeah.
Which is a chat.
I thought it was camera.
Yeah, it's
when I first saw it.
Kind of is that too.
Well, I suppose.
Because the chat incorporates
it does.
video.
You have to buy the camera. I thought it was going to be a video because like there's a button, a photo taking button on the Switch.
Oh, yeah.
I thought that was going to be like video or something like that. Like recording your video. Because you mentioned before
I would
that
love
the
if
Steam
it
Deck lets you, maybe the Switch 2 doesn't have the GPU to run the game and record it at the same time.
Yeah.
But that would be pretty cool. But yeah, the chat mode is interesting. Basically, it's got a sound filter on it where your voice will come through clearly even if someone's running a blender right behind you. I'll wait until I see that happening before
I will
before
say,
I believe it.
You know, doing a lot of work in like sound design and noise removal, it has come pretty long
Has
way.
it?
So I do believe it, but I don't know how much of a person's like the quality of their voice might be lost.
Oh, sure.
Based
Yeah,
on
probably.
the quality of the microphone in the
Right.
on the Switch itself,
And I
how
guess-
far away you are from the machine.
Because there's 2 problems with someone running a blender right behind you while you're trying to talk to someone. One of them is that they can't hear you, but the other one is that you can't hear them.
Yeah.
And that might be the bigger one.
Yeah.
So it's like they can hear your voice just fine, but are you going to hear them?
I mean, recommended. Don't blend right behind somebody while they're playing the game. But in
Yeah.
case there's a lot of noise, you should still be able to, communicate fairly well.
Yeah, which was interesting. It also incorporates that I want to say green screen. I don't know how else to put it, but the mode where it basically
it'll
just
cut.
isolates
It'll
your face.
mask you.
Yeah, which is what like Zoom and
Zoom. A lot of chat
that stuff's come a long ways
apps
as well.
basically have that feature.
So they'll basically cut you out if you have a crazy background behind you. It probably won't work as well. But if it's simpler,
fairly
then
simple.
it'll work well. And that seemed pretty fun.
Yeah, so I mean, the screen sharing, you can share your screen with others.
But-
It does look cool. I think my favorite way in which they used all of this chat stuff was in Mario Party, having each of the characters have the person's
Yeah.
face next to them, so you know like who's who.
That will help my children.
That was kind of cool. A lot. I kind of like that.
Yeah, that's fun. That's fun. That's mostly when you're remote with playing with other people remote. If everyone's in the same room, I'm guessing you could still take photos of people, but the camera's got to be on you the whole time. And so, anyways, that's fun though. That's fun. I like it.
Okay, so game share feature I wrote here allows 2 Switch systems, both a Switch 2 and a regular Switch. So this can be true even if you have the old one.
Cool.
To play the same game on one game card. This was called single card play on the Nintendo DS. So they had something similar to this,
interesting.
and Parker
Where
and
you
I
could
did
link
it
your
a couple of
DSs.
times, where it's like I have the game in my cart, but you can play multiplayer with me
Right.
if we're in the same room.
Yeah.
So they have a similar thing with Switch systems now, where if you got a Switch 2, and even if you're playing a Nintendo Switch game, not a Switch 2 game, Switch game, the other person has a Switch 1, you can both
You can
play the
still
game
play
on
together.
one cart. So that's kind of
cool.
cool.
That's pretty cool.
That reminded me of the single card play on DS, which I thought was a great feature. So that's nice. Again, I think why that's a really smart feature is because you can show your friends like, hey, let's play this game together. And then that
Right.
convinces them, hey, I
And then
might
they
be
might-
interested in
they
this
might buy
and
it,
go
yeah.
buy it, right? Just
Yeah.
a way of sort of sharing, which I think is really a good idea. It's a bigger screen, but the same thickness.
Yeah.
And this was pretty cool. So it's a 1080p screen with a frame rate that supports up to 120 frames. It's an LCD screen, but it's an LCD screen that supports HDR.
And when it's docked, it can do what? 4K. Yeah.
So it supports 4K,
Yeah.
60 frames, or 1080p, 120 frames for most stuff. So that's pretty sweet.
That is pretty
The Joy-Con attaches magnetically.
yeah.
And
yeah.
there's a release button for it, so you still push it. It's a very, very strong magnet, so
Yeah.
you can't just like yank it apart. You got to press that release, and then
So it's the electromagnet. Yeah.
yeah.
That's pretty cool.
So that's pretty interesting. They increased the sizes of the SL and SR buttons, and those are the magnets. So
yeah,
when you
that's
turn
right.
the controller, the Joy-Con on the
Yeah, the
side,
R&L.
the R and L buttons, they made those bigger, and those are essentially. Well, it's made of metal. Those don't hold the magnets. The magnets are in the console, but they're the metal pieces that connect to the magnets. The control sticks are
I like
larger.
that they made those buttons bigger, by the way.
Yeah, I do
I
too.
don't use a single one all that often, but some games like Mario Party, you have to do it that way.
Right.
You don't get to do it a different way. And in that case, yeah, I like the buttons being a bit bigger, especially since the controllers can be bigger now.
Yep. They made the control sticks bigger,
Yeah.
which is nice. The mouse controls. This was at least something that they had been
They
talking
showed
about the
back
Switch
in January,
2,
right?
yes,
Yeah.
was going to be capable of.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. I'll have to try it. Because especially with the slightly larger Joy-Cons, Joy-Con 2s is what they're called. I think that's what they're called. I thought that was pretty
I
funny.
think they are.
Being able to rest, one of the only reasons I can even use a mouse is if I have something to rest
like
my palm
we call
on
that,
and then
yeah.
move it around. Yeah. If this one's going to require like full arm movements, I may not be able to use it for that long.
Yeah. I mean, it'll be useful, I would assume, for games like Civilization.
Yeah, but a mouse is made for a hand at rest. This thing's like thin and like this, you know?
Yeah, how comfortable that'll be.
I just question it.
Yeah, I mean, that is true. I mean, I don't know. I guess I have. These are not.
Practice.
We can at least test and see. We have a computer mouse, and we have a Switch 1 Joy-Con. What does it feel like to turn this thing, click around? That's not bad
It's not bad.
to me.
Well, now know that what is it, half an inch longer on the bottom. So
Maybe put on a mouse pad. See how it feels.
okay, it's not as bad as I
It's
thought
not
it
too
would be.
bad.
It's actually not as bad as I thought it would be.
It's not that bad.
That's not bad at all.
It's actually pretty comfortable.
And you got your double click, your right click and your left click, your thumb buttons. That's not nearly as bad as I thought it was.
It's not that
gonna
bad.
be. That shocked me. I'm shocked.
I will say,
I'm shocked.
having now tested that could be pretty comfortable.
Well, I don't
Not
have
only
to-
that, you actually have your thumb in like the perfect
It's
position to
perfect.
push these buttons.
It's
too.
actually kind of perfect.
It's actually genius.
Wow. Jeez, dude.
I want to try this. So that's kind of a cool feature. Even first-person shooters like Metroid Prime, you can play this
Yeah,
way.
that's interesting. Yeah,
Which is-
because a lot of people
yeah.
prefer to play first-person shooters on a PC for the precision
Yes.
of a mouse.
Yes.
If the Switch can do that, then PC master race people,
I-
the Switch is coming for you, man.
I still prefer gyro controls for aiming.
Me too. Ever
but-
since, I'm ruined for that forever.
Yeah.
I will always only prefer that.
But if you are a mouse and keyboard kind of guy, maybe that would be a feature that would interest you. Let's see what else here. Improved speaker, built-in microphone, 3D audio that they're saying is better. I am interested at least to hear that and kind of see just on the console itself like what that sounds like.
Give me another release of Senua's Sacrifice with 3D audio. Make it 10 times scarier.
I
That'd
think
be
there is a
wonderful.
Switch version of that game, but I don't know if there's going to be a Switch 2 edition.
Switch 2.
I'm not sure how the Switch 2 is going to work because this is actually what I have for like the end of this conversation is that the Switch 2 infrastructure is not based on any of the Switch 1 infrastructure.
Really?
Which is why emulating Switch 1 games on Switch 2 is actually complicated and why they kept saying select Switch games or compatible Switch games will run on
So it's
the
not
Switch 2.
just the infrared sensor. There's probably more to it than just that.
The whole infrastructure is different. They have a whole interview with these guys where they explain this. Like when they went from the Wii to the Wii U, part of the Wii U's internal infrastructure was based on Wii tech for that reason, for that backwards compatibility.
Yeah.
And so that was not the case between the Switch 1 and Switch 2.
I wonder
Basically,
why they changed so
they've
much.
tried to do this thing where part of their hardware, because they essentially the Switch 2's hardware is not sufficient alone to just emulate the Switch. And then they were trying to think about, well, can we get some sort of software in which could be installed on there that would be the Switch 1 emulator? And they were like, and so they're trying to do they're trying to combine the two. It's like partially software, partially hardware emulation
Interesting.
happening here.
It's a bold strategy. We'll see if it works
And
out for
they
them.
have tested thousands of games, but they have thousands and thousands more to test to see which ones will be compatible and which ones will not be.
Interesting.
So that's the that's the short, I guess, of what's going on there. And so anyway, my assumption based on that is that you would put in your Switch 1 card and that it's not going to run the game from the card. It's going to like download the game just like it does on discs on your PS5.
That's what I think.
I don't know if this is how it works. Big alert. I'm assuming here.
Well, that's what I'm thinking too. But the thing is, once you take the card out,
Well, the same thing with
do you
discs.
still have
yes,
the
you
game?
still have to put the disc in on PlayStation 5 as well.
I see what you mean.
Even though they're downloading the whole game onto the hard drive.
Oh, geez.
Right. And that's partly because it's utilizing the SD hard drive.
Right.
The
flash
the
memory?
SDD, the
Solid state.
solid state hard drive to run the game and perform better, right? Because it's faster
so it
load
downloads
times
it all and then it
whatnot.
just runs it from there. Right.
So they're not running it off the disc. The disc isn't spinning, and they're like, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
So I would assume that they're probably doing something similar
Okay.
with this, where you're putting in your Switch 1 card. It's going to download the game, but it's recognizing it's a Switch 1 version. Do you want the Switch 2 version for an additional 10? We'll download that little patch and like include it into the file hierarchy.
So you still would then, in that way, you would still need the game cart. It would
Yes.
not just become digital on your Switch, even though it probably
Unless
is.
you have the digital version, I guess. But.
Oh, geez. Oh.
Because if you had the digital version of Zelda Breath of the Wild on the Switch and you do your transfer from your Switch to your Switch 2 and you have your digital version there,
Then
yeah,
That makes
it
more
would be
sense.
this same thing. Right. That's how I'm assuming this is going to work.
All right.
Now I'm waiting for everyone in the comments to tell me how wrong I was. Now, let's see. Oh, the kickstand is more like the
It's-
OLED version.
Yeah, the OLED Switch kickstand. Yeah, and it extends even further now, so you can really
You can go way
get a good angle on that.
down.
Yeah.
It's got two USB-C ports, one on the top and one on the bottom.
Yeah, smart.
So you can do it from the top when you want it to be in tabletop mode. That was a
Right.
big complaint
You
about
can
the
charge
original
it,
Switch.
but you can't do video mode at the same time. Also, the dock actually it actually does stuff this time. It's
Yes.
not just a piece of plastic.
Yes.
It did have some wiring in it, I guess, but that was mostly it. But it actually has a cooling fan in it now, which if the thing's running, 4K 60 frames per second, right, on that little thing, you're going to need something like that.
Yep. So it's
to
got
cool it down.
fan ventilation, power cooling. And like I said, plays compatible Nintendo Switch games for all the reasons we just talked about.
Yeah.
Okay. So the second game they showed was Nintendo Switch 2 Welcome Tour. And I was like, this is a great idea. This is awesome. This is exactly like something like Astro's Playroom, which gives you like a tutorial on how the
this is the
controller
one where the
works.
game is on the console.
Yes. But
it
it's
does not come with the console.
I
thought this was gonna be free.
absolutely freaking appalled by that.
Who's going to buy this game?
It is the
How much
dumbest thing I've ever heard. As soon as I saw a paid digital game, I was like, what the hell are you doing? This is so stupid. No one's buying that.
No one's going to buy that.
When I say no one, I don't mean literally no one. I just mean like who in like the broader market is going to pay whatever absurd amount of money to like get some tutorial on how their Switch works. Just so stupid. Couldn't believe that. The game cards are red now. The color has been turned red, the Nintendo red.
Mario Red. Nintendo
They have faster read speeds. You have
the
to
SD
use
cards.
micro SD
Yeah.
Express.
Right. The other ones will not work.
Yeah, you can't use a regular micro SD from your old Switch. You got to get an Express card. I'm
That's
guessing it's the
interesting.
same thing. I'm guessing it's for faster load times.
Yeah. Faster transfer speeds.
You know, because that's kind of a standard now with the PlayStation 5. You got your solid state hard drives,
Right.
and you know, it looks like they're trying to get a lot of games that are currently on like modern gen stuff ported over, whether it's Cyberpunk 2077 or a bunch of other stuff.
There's a bunch of Final Fantasy
And,
7
yeah, 7 remake.
What was
Intergrade,
it? That was
which is
Intergrade.
Final Fantasy remake and the little DLC
With Yuffie,
story
right?
with
Yeah,
Yuffie on the side together in one bundle. Point is, the micro SD Express cards are probably their attempt to like get really fast read speeds and make those load times be more minimal. System transfer, we already talked about that. There's going to be a Pro controller that'll have the C button on it and a GR and GL buttons, which are kind of
on
in
the bottom,
and
which
a
newer
lot of
controllers have.
A lot of pro level
Yeah.
controllers have buttons kind of down there. So that's usually there's like 4, like a pair of 2 on either side for those types of. There's only 1 on this, but it allows what it's for is for people if they want to be able to reprogram their
Certain
button
buttons.
layout.
Yeah.
However, and those options are there, which is it's kinda
Especially for the virtual consoles that talked about GameCube compatibility and stuff. It's like, well, you can map however you want to. You can map the this new controller to, and there's extra buttons for that. Because I think before one of the issues, actually, this is more an issue at the N64. But the fact that there was 4 C buttons and an A and B, and then the modern controllers don't have the buttons for that.
So usually
Something like that you can program to, maybe the other C buttons can be up here, or sometimes they just do the R1, L1, R2.
Yeah, rather than what they generally do, which is put
stick.
them to the
I
right
hate
stick.
that. I really don't like that.
I don't either. I don't think it works that well. Okay, so then they announced the June 5th launch.
Yep.
Upgraded versions of Switch games are in development. They're called the Nintendo Switch 2 editions, like we've been saying, like a $10 sort of like price to make your Switch version into a Switch 2 edition.
Right. They didn't say, so they didn't mention Breath of the Wild with this one.
Yeah.
They didn't say that it was going to include like the DLC expansion packs or not.
I think it
I would assume
does.
it will.
I think it does. I think it comes with everything.
Okay.
Yeah.
And other things besides, right?
Yeah.
That the Switch 2 version of these games will have even more stuff.
Yeah, so like Zelda, for instance, they have the Zelda Notes, which you can access through the Nintendo Switch app.
Right.
which will help you
That's a new thing. That's a new thing.
It'll help you find shrines or like the Korok seeds and things that you're missing. So, little things like that they'll add to them. So, so the idea should be it will include all the paid DLC plus some little added features in the Nintendo Switch 2 edition of a Switch game. Mario Party Jamboree, both the Zelda titles, Kirby and the Forgotten Land were some of the games that they showed that will have that available. They showed some more Metroid Prime 4. And so on the Switch 2 version of that game, you can use the mouse controls, but also it'll run at 4K 60 FPS HDR in docked quality mode. But then they also have the docked performance mode, where it'll run at 120 frames per second at 1080p HDR.
Yeah.
And then on undocked in the quality mode, it'll be 1080p 60 FPS, which is pretty freaking sweet on a handheld.
That's great.
1080p 60 FPS on a handheld device is pretty great.
Yeah.
And HDR as well. And then in the performance mode handheld, 720p 120 frames per second HDR.
That's
pretty good. That's pretty great.
Wild. Yeah, this is very good.
This is a good console in terms of performance. I think that's really, really good that they hit those marks. Then they talked about Pokemon Legends ZA. They'll have a Switch and Switch 2 versions.
Yeah.
That's a game that's coming out. The Drag X Drive. I don't know what you thought about this. I was not expecting wheelchair basketball.
I mean, it's cool. I won't be playing it, but it's interesting.
It looks like it's
creative,
trying to kind of be similar to Rocket League.
Oh, yeah, I heard
Rocket
about
League
that.
is where you're cars and you're playing soccer. You're like driving and hitting the
Oh,
soccer
that was
ball.
fun. That was super fun.
Yeah, so I think it's their attempt to do something like that, but it's wheelchair basketball instead of cars playing soccer. Clearly inspired by Rocket League. Let's see. Then I believe, then they talked about so then this is where they started going over all of their partner developed games. So a bunch of games that are coming to the Switch 2. Elden Ring,
Yeah. Elden Ring.
Hades 2, Street Fighter 6, Daemon X Machina, Split Fiction, Hogwarts Legacy, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 and 4,
3 and 4, yeah.
Hitman World of Assassination.
Yeah.
IO Interactive is also in development on a 007 game that'll
Yeah.
be coming to the Nintendo Switch 2. Bravely Default,
Bravely Default.
remastered. That I thought a
That's
lot
a
of
fun
our
one.
people might be interested in that.
This section where they just kind of show just a bunch of the third-party games in development, or the ones in the past that are being brought to the Switch 2.
Yeah.
That's where I was like, holy crap, there's like 5 or 6 games here that I am really wanting to play. And
Yeah.
this would be a great opportunity to play them.
This console, like we said, in our video on the Switch 2 when they kind of soft revealed it
Yeah.
a month or so ago, when we talked about, we hope they don't just do a more powerful Switch.
Right.
For all the reasons that we may have said there that we didn't want to see that,
Yeah. There's one good
this
reason.
is the benefit to doing
Yeah,
it.
you can have Elden Ring. On
This is
your
the
Switch.
benefit to doing it.
Yeah.
This launch is going to be really strong.
Yeah.
Not only for whatever Switch 2 games are there at launch, like Mario Kart World, and I think even Donkey Kong Bonanza comes only just like a couple weeks after.
That's right,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
It's like it's not far after. So they'll have some brand new Switch 2 stuff, which is cool, but you get all of these other games and partnerships and things like that that can be on there, and all of your Switch library, well, the compatible Switch library that you
not all of
own.
it. We'll
There are
see.
specific games in particular, like I think Nintendo Labo, that will not work
Okay.
on the Switch 2. So we'll get into that in a minute. But anyways, the idea is you can play a fetching huge library of stuff on this
Yeah.
thing out of the gate. And that's very, very cool.
Yeah. That's a big deal.
So Bravely Default Remaster, that looks great. I really liked that game a lot, so it's cool that they have an HD version. Yakuza 0 Director's Cut.
Yeah, Yakuza, yeah.
Another new Nintendo Switch game, Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment. So this is a
tie-in for Tears,
What
right?
is it? It's not Dynasty Warriors style
Dynasty
game,
style, yeah.
which is not my thing.
Right.
But this one is unlike the other Hyrule Warriors games, which were not canon
Right. This
in
one
terms
is,
of story. This one is a canon story
Oh, interesting.
for Zelda. So it's the story that leads right into Tears of the Kingdom, I believe,
Okay.
is what it said. So this is an actual like canon Zelda story in a Dynasty Warriors style game. I'm going to skip this part because they kind of took a break there, but there's a whole bunch of others. Deltarune, Borderlands 4.
Of Rune Factory. Yeah.
Civilization 7, Survival Kids, Enter the Gungeon 2, Star Seeker, Cyberpunk 2077, Final Fantasy 7 Remake. I mean, just a lot.
Yeah.
Hollow Knight Silk Song, Goodnight Universe, 2 Point Museum, Wild Hearts S, Witchbrook,
that one looks
Puyo
interesting.
Puyo Tetris
Witchbrook.
2D or 2S, Rune Factory. You also mentioned Story of Seasons.
Yeah. Story of Seasons.
Marvel Cosmic Invasion, Star Wars Outlaws, Nobunaga's Ambition Awakening,
that one looks
Complete Edition, Fast Fusion, Shadow Labyrinth, Raido Remastered, No Sleep for Konami Date, or whatever the fetch that is. Fortnite, Reanimal. Reanimal looked really cool.
Yeah.
Of all of the games that they were kind of just speed running through here, that one had Eco vibes to it.
Oh, yeah.
Team Eco, like
Yes,
the game
yeah,
before
yeah.
Shadow of the Colossus.
Last Guardian,
Kids kind of like running with the girl and holding hands and trying to escape from monsters and stuff. That game looked really cool. I was really interested in that. Arcade Archives 2, Ridge Racer, or I think it's Ridge Racer. Professor Layton, a new
Yes.
Professor Layton. Tamagotchi Plaza, Human
Tamagotchi.
Fall Flat 2, and then this new FromSoft exclusive game. It looks a lot like Bloodborne.
Oh, Bloodborne. So I
Bloodborne.
said Hellborne. Yeah,
It's
Bloodborne.
not a Bloodborne sequel. This is, I think, kind of like Elden Ring Night Rain, which just came out. It is a multiplayer only type game. So it's a multiplayer game.
Oh, really?
You get on and you play with people, other people.
That's
Elden Ring Night Rain is like a DLC for Elden Ring it's not a DLC. It's a whole separate game.
okay.
But it's in the world of Elden Ring, but it is a multiplayer From Software game. This is like that, but it's like a Bloodborne-like
Bloodborne
version of that.
Gotcha.
Called the Dusk Bloods, I think is what it's called. Yeah, the Dusk Bloods. So that's really interesting. From Software doing
Exclusive.
an exclusive Nintendo game. Because Bloodborne is an exclusive Sony game,
Interesting.
right? All their other titles are multi-plat,
Yeah.
except for Bloodborne. Well, yeah, except for Bloodborne. And so people have been wanting for years for them to do a remaster or a re-release of Bloodborne, or a remake or whatever, or a sequel to it, and they haven't done that. And it's a Sony property. Actually, no, that's not true. Demon's Souls is also a Sony property.
Only? Oh,
Demon's
really?
Souls and Bloodborne are both
Okay.
Sony properties, and the rest of them, aside from those two,
Are all
are multi-plat. And this is a Switch exclusive. This is a Nintendo exclusive. So that's just interesting. Okay, let's step back here for a second and go through some of the online service stuff they talked about.
Yeah, it was after they speed ran through all those games, though, that I really felt like, whoa, this is good.
Yeah,
This is a good lineup.
it's really good. So the online service, this is the emulator part of it. So like they're NES, Sega, Genesis, SNES, Nintendo 64,
Game Boy Advance,
like all of these
And GameCube.
libraries. They announced the GameCube
Yeah.
as this is Switch 2 exclusive. The GameCube is Switch 2 exclusive. But all those other ones which were available now
on the Switch,
are available on Switch 2. And I would hope their libraries as they stand now on the Switch 1 will be the same, carry over. So that's pretty great. I mean, again, I felt like that portion of it, that sort of like access to the old Nintendo system library, should have been a launch feature on the Switch 1. And it took a long time to build those libraries up. And that's, again, the benefit to just being a more powerful Switch is you get to keep and carry all that over.
Yeah.
And now we're getting GameCube games. And so they had Wind Waker, Soul Calibur 2, and F-Zero GX as the three leads. But they also teased in sort of an
Mario
image.
Strikers,
Mario Sunshine, Fire Emblem Path of Radiance, Pokemon XD, Chibi Robo, which is a game I really, really liked on the GameCube.
Really?
It's really, really fun. It's a great game. Luigi's Mansion and
my kids
Pokemon
love that.
Coliseum. So those are on the horizon.
I remember Pokemon Stadium.
Yeah.
On the, was it 64 Pokemon Stadium?
Yeah. So Coliseum is the
Coliseum would be the next
GameCube
one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that would be fun.
And they are also releasing a dedicated GameCube controller, kind of like they did with the NES and SNES.
With the chat button on
with the chat button on there. So that's all really great.
Yeah.
That's all really cool. That's all really promising. And then they ended the show on Kirby Air Riders, which is Kirby Air Rider was a franchise that it's been dead for a while.
Yeah.
And so they're doing like a sequel to Kirby Air Rider.
Yeah, and it's
Kirby Air Riders.
fascinating that they kept mentioning that Masahiro Sakurai.
Is
they
the one
mentioned
doing it.
multiple times, 2 times, directed by Masahiro Sakurai. And one of the things that I like about this is that Sakurai is so sick of doing Smash Brothers.
He really is.
I think they're paying him very well.
They're finally letting him make a different game.
He is very good. But it wasn't just the fact, everyone knows his name, and he's very connected with Smash Brothers, which also does have a natural connection with HAL Laboratories as well.
Oh, yeah.
And so the fact that he's moving from Smash to Kirby is just it's a fun move. It makes sense. And everyone can just applaud that Sakurai is no longer forced with golden handcuffs into making another Smash Brothers game.
Now,
although he is very good at making those.
Beardmo is saying Eternal Darkness when? So
I don't.
Here's what I will
you heard
say.
anything about that?
Here's what I will say. Whenever they do decide to put Eternal Darkness into that library,
Then you'll buy it.
we're doing Eternal Darkness.
Oh, yes.
No, as a podcast series.
That's right. We got to
when
talk
that
about
happens, we're doing Eternal
That'll be
Darkness.
awesome.
Even
That'll
if
be
it's in the middle of something else. Like we're in the middle of, I don't know,
FF9.
Metal Gear Solid 3.
it. Sure.
Okay, we're taking a break and we're doing Eternal
We're
Darkness.
doing Eternal Darkness. Sorry, guys.
I
guys.
love Eternal Darkness so freaking
I do
much.
too. I love that game.
It's a really special game to me. So that's partly a joke. Obviously, we're not going to interrupt an ongoing series. But my point is, as soon as that happens, there's no vote happening. There's no Patreon vote happening. That's the next game we're covering as soon as that happens.
Oh, that would be great if they did that.
And then the final thing was the Donkey Kong Bonanza coming July 17th. Okay, so I guess it's a little more than a month later. And it looks great.
It looks wonderful. It looks
great.
extremely fun. I only have one concern about it. It looks fun. I'm not recognizing Donkey Kong in this.
Yeah.
But have you seen the Donkey Kong? Have you seen the Mario movie?
Oh, so did they change his
Yeah.
face to look like the Mario movie version?
Yes. And so the Mario movie made a ton of money. That film did so extremely well that I feel like Nintendo is going to be, how would you put it? They're going to be changing a lot of their IPs to conform to that movie.
Yeah.
Mario is very different in that movie. Luigi's very different. Bowser, Donkey Kong, Cranky Kong, they're all very, very different in the movie
From
than
a
they
design
are in the games.
standpoint, yeah.
And acting and character
Oh,
personality,
okay.
everything is very different. Extremely. The closest I could maybe say is Luigi. He's got that Luigi Mansion, like I'm scared of everything thing going there. It's like, okay, that's more or less. And I think it's Charlie Day who is the voice
he plays
of
Luigi in the movie.
But I don't. The thing I'm afraid about with the success of that movie is that it would start changing all of their IP to become more like the movie. I hope that doesn't happen. This is a sign that is what they're going to maybe look towards doing. And the fact that there's a line in the Mario movie, because I've seen it 30 times because my kids freaking love it, is from Donkey Kong, and he says, "I'm not just a guy who smashes things," and that's and I can't remember the voice. Is it Seth Rogen?
It's Seth Rogen. Yeah, that was the most ridiculous freaking casting ever.
and it's great for the movie. The movie's a good movie. It's a well-made movie. It's not my favorite, but for a movie, it is quite good. For a video game movie, it's quite good. But if Donkey Kong becomes the movie Donkey Kong, the Donkey Kong from that movie, I become way less interested in what they're doing with Donkey Kong. And it turns out they made a game where he is just a guy who smashes things and is just freaking silly, and they changed his model to look more like the movie. Anyways, rant over on that. But that's a concern I have.
I will say this, because I have not seen that film, so I didn't know that was similar. But I did not, I mean, they teased this because Donkey Kong is in Mario Kart World. So people noticed that Donkey Kong looked different in that when they showed that a month ago. And I remember seeing that and going, I do not like that face for Donkey Kong. I don't like, he looks way nicer and doesn't have that angry edge. However, as I watched this in motion and saw his angry expressions,
they did some funny stuff.
It looks pretty good.
Yeah.
So
it looks
I'm
great.
not like concerned about that anymore.
Okay.
I'm kind of fine with it as long as the game's good. But again, I'm not playing this for years. So. But it looks good. I mean, it looks.
It does.
Fun.
It looks very fun.
It looks excellent.
I'm playing Donkey Kong Country with my kids.
The fact that we've got in at least the first several months of this Switch release, a Mario Kart, a Donkey Kong, and a Metroid Prime release is pretty great. And I can only assume Mario is going to be on the horizon because it's been a long time since
Odyssey came out a while ago. And then Wonder, but Wonder wasn't as big scale the way Odyssey was.
Yeah, so I would think Mario's probably coming pretty soon.
Yeah.
And that those will be the sort of Nintendo first party lineup for the beginning of this console's life cycle. Zelda's probably going to be several years out since we just got Tears of the Kingdom. But yeah, I just have to reiterate again, I thought the show was really good. In comparison to things like the Sony State of Plays or even a lot of the trailers that you saw in the presentation of the AAA industry in things like the Game Awards, Nintendo is more focused on it feeling fun.
Yeah.
And a lot less focus on it being cool or edgy or like whatever. You know, it's
like we're changing everything.
They really keep it focused on gaming is fun. It's supposed to bring people together.
Yeah.
And I just like their presentations a lot. I think that they do a really good job. And
it was quite a show. It was fun to watch.
Depending on what kind of games you like, there's something for you here right out of the gate. And there's a lot of games that if you're a traditional Nintendo fan, maybe you've only had Nintendo consoles that you have never had access to before, like Elden Ring and
Right, yeah.
things like this, Cyberpunk,
Final Fantasy 7, yeah.
Final
Cyberpunk
Fantasy 7 remake,
2077.
that were kind of like these games were a little too advanced for the Switch. Now you can have them, and I think that's really cool. So I have kind of turned around on my feelings about the Switch 2. I was a little disappointed at first. It's just going to be a more powerful Switch. Now I'm fully on board with it. I think it's a great idea.
It's just
it's going to be a really strong launch.
Yeah, it's gonna be great.
It's a great piece of hardware, and it's a very exciting console. Love to hear your thoughts on why we're wrong.
Yes, indeed.
Tell us
please.
about why we're such idiots, and we don't have any idea what we're talking about. And sticks and stones, baby. We'll see you guys on Wednesday for a really great episode of Terra Enigma. If you're not playing this game,
You should be.
well, realize you can't first because it's not available on anything. Then realize that for the sake of game preservation, emulation exists. And then maybe think really hard about considering playing along with this.
Great.
It's awesome game. We love
it is.
it, and we have a great episode coming up. So we'll see you on Wednesday.